It's different shapes. They can even be straight with a kicker on the top and a kicker on the bottom. They come in different shapes. So we're going to talk about chimney flashings, especially older chimneys. You are always better off on an old house to remove a chimney than to try to reflash it. Old chimneys aren't maintained in general. They're out of sight, they're out of mind, people don't think about them, they're way up on the roof. They'll have leaks all around their living room, around the fireplace. They never know why, they just know it leaks. They assume it's the roof, and it's not. 19 out of 20 times that you have a leak in a living room and there's a chimney involved, at least 19 out of 20 times it is the chimney. And guess what? It's not even the flashing around the chimney, it's the mortar. All this mortar is knocked out, water comes in, gets inside the mortar, ice gets in there, expands and freezes and opens and closes every year after year after year, and those gaps get bigger and bigger and more chunks come out. Water starts getting inside, running down the wall, and it translates out somewhere on the drywall sometimes. But usually, did you know that you don't even know? Most chimneys don't even show a drywall leak because it's behind the paint, behind the drywall, and it doesn't leak enough to actually translate out to stain. That means there is mold inside the walls of almost every chimney everywhere. There's mold growing. People don't even know it. So it's a mold issue, but it's out of sight, out of mind. Nobody knows about it until you go do a remodel. And they tear that out and go, holy smokes, there's mold all over in here. Wow, this chimney's been leaking. Well, it wasn't the roof. It wasn't the flashing. It was the mortar. A lot of times these don't even have a cap on them. So water gets down inside and it rains right inside of them. So I always take pictures of my chimneys. I always educate my homeowner, you gotta get a mason. If you wanna keep that chimney, you've gotta get a mason out here. Our warranties don't include chimneys. And chimneys all leak, by the way. So if you wanna keep it, you better remortar it. I've seen guys come out with brick face metal and wrap it with a brick face metal. It looks like a chimney from a distance. You get up close, it's metal with a stamp on it. It's a chimney stamp. It looks like a brick. And it's really clever and it's smart. It's a good way to do it. So I always check to make sure there's a cap on it. If it's got a B vent coming through it, I always make sure. So sometimes you'll see a vent coming out of it with a cap, right?
Right.
They'll do that. Make sure that's there. At least, if not, a full metal cap on it with your vent coming through your cap. There better be a metal cap. Sometimes it's a concrete cap. What's wrong with concrete caps? After 10 or 15 years, they crack.
Yeah.
And you have to get up there and caulk the heck out of them all the time. I spend hours on chimneys just caulking them for people. Say, can you just caulk that for me? Sure, let me go buy about 10 tubes of good adhesive and I'll just spend a couple hours. I'm going to charge you a lot for it, but I'll do it. Cheaper than having a chimney guy come up here. Now, but after I've done that, the chimney guy's going to hate me because there's going to be adhesive all over the mortar. It's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is to get a mason up here and re-tuck point your chimney. It's not cheap. It's going to be expensive, but you got to do it. But better than that, I'd rather remove that chimney. If the insurance company is going to give me, on average, $350 to $400 just to reflash a chimney, I can take that chimney down, throw it in the trash, and put a piece of OSB over that hole in about 20 minutes, and we're done. It's a lot cheaper, and it's better to remove an old chimney. But you have to understand that if they've got any kind of gas ventilation from the basement or on any level of that house, if they have a gas furnace or a gas water heater that vents into the old chimney chase and it comes out the top, sometimes those flues are way down here, you can't see them. You got to go in the basement and make sure it's electric, not gas, or it's vented out the wall, not the chimney. Do not, you have to be really careful there. What could happen if you block that off? And the homeowner was older and they said, yeah, I think I went to that electric one. Yeah, I think so. Well, then you took it out and blocked it off. Guess what happened? Carbon monoxide is now building up in that house. You just killed your homeowner. You do not want that. So you have to be, someone has to take responsibility to go down and verify that there are no gas-fired appliances that are venting in that old chimney. But you're better off to remove them. It's cheaper. Typically pay a crew $50 to $75 to just remove it and deck over it. And it's all labor, a little piece of plywood. The shingles are already built in. It makes more sense, doesn't it? To just get rid of it. I've even had homeowners call their heating and air guy out and just vent them out a wall. Just say, why don't we just, if it's easy enough to vent it out a wall, let's take your gas appliances, vent them out a wall like it should be, not through the chimney anymore. And there goes your mold problem, there goes your maintenance problem, your tuck pointing, and every 10 or 20 years, which they don't do anyway. Well, here's what happens. We go to reflash it. On Xactimate, it says we'll give you, for a small chimney, a 24 by 24, we're going to give you $313.38 to reflash it. What that means, it's at least a two-piece system. You've got step flashing that goes up against it, you've got counter flashing that goes above that, and then you have head wall flashing that goes above it and below it. So you have head wall here and here. You've got step flashing anywhere it's sloped on both sides. The slope side is step flashing. And then you got to take a piece of counter flashing, so your step flashing is all built in like this. It's overlapped and laced between the shingles. And then your head wall flashing, or your counter flashing then goes above that and is wrapped above that. So it's a two-piece system. Sometimes we'll just take some flat stock to make your counter flashing, and we'll take a termination bar and fasten that to the top. So then it's a three-piece system. Think of all that, what happens to this chimney. It's shaking, it's being banged, or the mortar's getting knocked loose as you're doing this. You're either drilling or pounding. You're either putting those self-tapping blue colored Tapcons in it, or you're drilling a hole and putting a lead anchor in it, you're tapping it. Either way, you are shaking and vibrating this structure, and it will loosen up that mortar, and it makes it worse than when you started. So even though we get paid to do it, it's not always the best thing, especially on older chimneys. Xactimate says, if you have a really large chimney, if it's 32 by 60, that's a large chimney. And we're going to give you $526 to do that. I can't tell you how many roofs I've gotten on, and the chimney was huge. Rock, and it was like that long. So what do? It's not here in Xactimate. I take my large chimney and I double it. I go, large chimney twice. And I double it. I need $1,052.30 to flash it. Okay. Yeah, it's like 8 feet wide, and they pay it. Also, when it passes through two roofs, you'll see a chimney go through here, come past the soffit again to another roof line, and be flashed again down here. That's a double flashing charge. You're going to flash it here, you're going to flash it here. That's two flashing charges. You'll see this a lot, you'll see oversize a lot. There's your story on chimneys.